Instagram, Donald Trump has chalked up another first. This morning, he became the first former president in US history to be convicted of a crime. A jury in New York deliberated for a little over a day and found him guilty of all 34 charges against him. They found he falsified documents to cover up paying hush money to a porn star in order to influence the outcome of the 2016 presidential election. He'll be sentenced on the 11th of July. All charges carry a maximum penalty of 4 years in prison. Let's go live to Annelise Nielsen now. Just 5 months, Annelise, from the presidential election, Donald Trump faces the real prospect of going to jail.
Well, he doesn't. He's been found guilty on 34 charges, but he will lodge an appeal, we can all but assume. And the other aspect to this is he is a first-time offender, so by the normal sentencing guidelines, he shouldn't be up for jail time. But there are a lot of interesting firsts with this case. The fact that he's been found guilty at all is a legal precedent set in and of itself. This was a novel legal argument put forward. The times that they've used similar arguments in New York State haven't been for anything like a former presidential candidate, former presidential campaign in 2016. So what we saw today was Alvin Bragg in his press conference after the conviction, really sidestepping any suggestion that he would be commenting on the sentencing. That's down to the judge. But by the normal course of things, this is the kind of thing that should be delayed if there is a successful appeal motion put in. But here's a little bit of what Alvin Bragg had to say in this press conference a short time ago.
The 12 everyday jurors vowed to make a decision based on the evidence and the law, and the evidence and the law alone. Their deliberations led them to a unanimous conclusion beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant, Donald J. Trump, is guilty of 34 counts of falsifying business records in the first degree to conceal a scheme to corrupt the 2016 election.
Laura, I can tell you in the last few moments I received, and I'm sure many Americans received, a link to Donald Trump's campaign saying he's been convicted and searching for donations off the back of that. We'll get that graphic for you shortly, but this is going to be completely unprecedented in a presidential election campaign. The only other instance in history of a convicted felon running for office was not a major candidate. And not only is Donald Trump right now the Republican presumptive presidential candidate, if that 11th July hearing goes ahead for his sentencing, that will be 4 days before the Republican National Convention where that will be confirmed. He is also the front runner by key polls in critical swing states, and he's at least neck and neck with Joe Biden in national polls, which aren't as indicative but are still important nonetheless. Donald Trump didn't say too much as he was leaving court. He made a brief statement.
This was a rigged, disgraceful trial. The real verdict is going to be November 5th by the people. And they know what happened here, and everybody knows what happened here.
Yeah, he's right. In many ways, a real verdict will be on November 5, the US presidential election. That's just a couple of months away now. I'm sure the Democrats would be chalking this up as a huge win, but electorally, maybe not.
Well, this is the really interesting thing. There was a poll out this morning from NPR Marist poll, and what this showed, which I think a lot of people already kind of realised from just the general zeitgeist, is that this hasn't changed anyone's mind in particular. What it has done is further ingratiated people into the opinion they already held. So Republicans have overwhelmingly gone in Trump's favour on the idea of a conviction, and Democrats have gone the other way. The only thing that might change is there was a high percentage of independents who said that this might change their mind, but we really won't know until this has come through, because most people haven't been following this case with as much focus as maybe us in the media. And so what we are going to see now is how this plays out and how much this is still in people's minds by November.
Yeah, absolutely. We heard from Alvin Bragg as well, Annelise. He said what I think we assumed he was all going to say, and I think that will rile up some Trump reporters even further. Trump supporters, I should say, even further.
Yeah, look, there's some Trump reporters out there too. What I think we'll see is just this kind of narrative going that there's some politicization around this. And it is a different system in America to Australia. You do have elected prosecutors, you have elected district attorneys, you have elected judges. And I mean, we have the judge in this instance is donated to the Biden campaign. And that's not unusual for party allegiances. But normally a state level judge wouldn't be adjudicating on a presidential case because how often does that come up? So this is going to feed into a lot of narratives. And I think the risk for the Biden campaign would just be sitting back and saying, well, who's going to vote for a felon? And I think that this degree of complication in this case and the fact that people do have short-term memories, the fact it might not be in their mind come November because who knows what's going to happen over this summer, this might not be the silver bullet that they were hoping for, but we have nothing to base this off because we've never seen a president convicted, a former president or a presidential candidate who's doing well in the polls. So it's all a huge unknown at this point.
Yeah, it certainly is. I just want to show you some of those comments from Alvin Bragg now. This was just a couple of moments ago, about 10 minutes ago. He held a big media conference there in New York.
We now have a federal court decision ruling on the legal theories. We had a state court decision on the omnibus motions. But most importantly, today we have the most important voice of all, and that's the voice of the jurors. They have spoken. Donald J. Trump has been convicted of 34 counts.
Okay, Annelise, the sentencing process begins in July. That's even closer towards the presidential election. Yes, there'll be appeals, but the judge in this case, he's the same judge that will hand down this sentence, right?
Yes, and that is normal in the course of these prosecutions. There will be an appeal to the state level appeals court, and then this could technically go to the Supreme Court. But I mean, all of this, it's timing as well. This is one of Donald Trump's real strategies in dealing with legal issues is delay, delay, delay. And it's worked in all of his other legal issues that he's been up against. This is likely going to be the only trial that runs before November. And so he has the real prospect of being at least the president-elect by then, or potentially even the president by the time these other cases are supposed to be coming to fruition. And you can imagine they might die a natural death at that point. And then the other issue with this is just the sheer amount of focus this is going to put in the election campaign, taking him away from election participation, from those normal kind of rallies and things that he likes to do. But the other consideration in this is sentencing guidelines. He doesn't have a previous conviction. So if by those normal sentencing guidelines, this is a Class E felony, very low on the spectrum, he should not be getting any jail time. But it is up to the discretion of the judge in the end.